What is up, Rangers and hockey fans? Thank you guys so much for chiming in for episode 39 of Rangers Review. Myself alongside Statboy Steven. In today's episode, we'll be doing the usual week 5 recap now, at least to our schedule. So we're going to be going over the past 3 games for the Rangers. Some good games, at least in the sense of the Rangers didn't lose any. I'm going to take the belt back because I won the tiebreaker. I know that neither of us got our predictions right. I thought the Rangers would go 2-1 during that span. I think, Steven, you went 1-1-1, but you had a lesser goals that you predicted at 9. I went 10. So Rangers scored more than 10 goals during the stretch. So I get that little, bonus if you guys have been following along on the pod, whether it's on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. But yeah, we'll be breaking down everything there is to know about these 3 games, our initial reactions to them, how Kakko has looked great, finally breaking out over these past couple games, getting some points. Sammy Blais being out for the season, the repercussions of that. How's the lineup going to look like for the remainder of the year without him potentially? And just kind of gain a feel for the team now that they've had a good stretch of games. So before we go any further, though, I want to thank again everybody that's chiming in live here or on replay. And Steven, how are you doing today, my friend? Happy to have you here.
Good. Well, my final few hours in Ireland before flying to New York. So, yeah.
Awesome. I know that, you got a lot of fun things coming up once you hit the States. I'm really excited for you. It's been long overdue, as we talked about in last pod as well. In case you guys don't know, I'm sure most of you know by now, but if you don't, Steven does in fact live in Dublin, Ireland. So, he hasn't been to the States in a bit now. So it's definitely going to be refreshing for him. Got to go to the Ranger game. I know you're going to an Islanders Sharks game, I think, as well. Wolfpack game. So you got a lot of fun events coming up hockey wise for sure.
And the red hot hockey game as well. It's Cornell against University at Madison Square Garden.
So you're going to 4 hockey games as of now.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's like the most beautiful 2-week stretch that I could imagine. Can't go, and I love it too because all of them are different.
Yeah. Wolfpack game on Saturday, then the Rangers game on Sunday. Both games are Hockey Fights Cancer, though, so that's already special for me. With
absolutely,
my mom finishing chemo a couple of weeks ago, and the way that has really dictated most of the year for me and my family. And then the following week, the college game at Madison Square Garden, and then the Islanders Sharks game because I want to see the new arena, and it's only $30. So.
Yeah, why not? Hopefully the Sharks play a good game that night out. But I did want to.
And I've never seen the Sharks play, so I can add them to my list of teams that I've seen in action.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a great point. I do want to touch on a quick donation here in the live stream. Thank you so much, Brody. He's been a great supporter. Just says, great to see you. As always, Tyler and Steven. Feels so good to see Kakko heating up. Let's go Rangers. Preaching to the choir, Brody. Again, thank you so much for the donation. Really, really appreciate that. That helps out a lot. But yeah, we'll get into Kakko shortly. And again, everybody that's watching this live, if you have comments, questions, or concerns, we'll be addressing them towards the end of the episode like we usually do. So let's just really, dive in. These past couple of games to the Raiders aren't necessarily pretty, but they got the job done. They're continuously gained ways to win. And we saw that as the Rangers went 3-0 over the stretch, games 14, 15, and 16 on the season. And that started with a game in Columbus where the Rangers once again beat the Columbus Blue Jackets, second time over the past month. And they won 5-3. They outshot the Blue Jackets in this one, 41-36. And there were a lot of things that I liked about this game. Some things that I found a little frustrating too, but it started off with a Jakub Voracek because of course he had to score his first goal of the season. I know it's not his first goal of his career, but anything of first is inevitable when you face the New York Rangers. So you can bet that monkey's coming off of your back one way or the other. Voracek gets his first goal of the season back with Columbus, the same team that originally drafted him before he became a longtime Flyer. Then Artemi Panarin countered with only a couple minutes left in the first to make it a 1-1 game. That was Panarin's 3rd goal of the season at that point, assisted by Fox, who had a beautiful assist, his 11th of the year, and Ryan Strome, his 4th assist. Then we get on to the second period, and Eric Robinson I think 7 minutes into the game, got something rolling, or maybe it was shorter than that. I could be wrong. For the Blue Jackets, he made it a 2-1 game, his 2nd goal of the year. But Chris Kreider doing Chris Kreider things. This man has continued to be nonstop throughout the stretch of 3 games, just scoring. He just won't stop, man. 10th goal of the year, and that surely wasn't his last over this 3-game span. assisted by Jacob Trouba, his lone assist there at 4 assists on the season. Then Artemi Panarin enters again, and we're talking about a Panarin that entered Columbus where they're just booing him nonstop as soon as the puck is on his stick. So it really felt inevitable in that sense too that he was going to ball out and have a good game. He's done well against Columbus in the past. He does again here, his second one. We did a little bit of a salute, I believe, to the fans as well after that first or second goal to kind of, shush them down a little bit. Being the former Columbus Blue Jacket, that's his 4th of the year, then assisted by Strome, his 5th. Jacob Trouba, icing on the cake there, got his first goal of the season, assisted by Goudreau and Gauthier in the second. At that point, it's a 4-2 Rangers lead. Then Chris Kreider continues to score, this time on the power play, doing what he does best in front, and that will be Kreider's 11th goal of the season, assisted by Zibanejad with his 9th assist, and Foxy's 12th. And Texier would score for Columbus towards the latter half of the game with only around 7 minutes left. But Rangers win this one 5-3. They outshot, like I said, 41-36. Face-offs, the Rangers actually won the face-off dot in this game. So that's always comforting to actually see them not just do well on face-offs, but win the game. Those things feel like an anomaly. They don't happen often. 53% to 47% for the Blue Jackets. Rangers also took advantage of the power play. They were 1 for 2 in this game, as did Columbus. They were 1 for 3, respectively. The Rangers out-hit Columbus drastically, 28-10. Blocks were in favor of the Rangers, 12-7. And Rangers only had 2 giveaways. So they were there were times where they were a little frustrated in this one, but that second period was just absolutely massive for them to get 3 consecutive goals. And let's not forget, that all happened, and literally it felt like a minute span. I think it was just over a minute. The Rangers scored back to back to back, literally. And I remember telling this to you, Steven, over Twitter. I was about to go on a rant on how poorly I felt the Rangers were playing to start this game. I didn't like it at all. I felt that they were just looking a little lazy out there. There was nothing that was really, exciting to me. And then out of nowhere, they just get 3 straight. And that really is all she wrote on this one. So yeah, great one for the Rangers here. They continue the win streak at this point. This is 2 straight wins for them. And then they head on to their next matchup, which you'll be touching on now.
Yeah, so they take on the New Jersey Devils at home on a Sunday. First off, it really started really that great in the first period with Jesper Bratt, of course, getting the lead for the New Jersey Devils, assisted by Dawson Mercer and PK Subban, who we'll touch on a little later. But the second period, Adam Fox gets the Rangers on the board with the backhand. And I think the Rangers were defensively okay. And I remember during the game saying, if they can shore it up defensively, I don't see them losing this game because they're going to score a couple of goals on Blackwood. And, the Adam Fox goal, the backhand comment by Steve Valiquette was a great comment because you don't really see defensemen score with the backhand that much. It's more forward move. And I think that's what put Blackwood off. This is going to be Blackwell, Wedgwood, Blackwood. It's confusing these names sometimes.
You're looking like Sam Rosen over here. Get it together, Steven.
Unbelievable. Anyway, so Adam Fox gets us on the board 1-1. And then it's Kakko who played really well on Sunday already, before he did the first point. Passes it to Trouba. Trouba shoots, and then on the rebound, Lafreniere taps it in when the puck is lying behind Blackwood's skate. Lafreniere getting his 4th goal of the season, which he really needed. He was on a little bit of a cold streak. Of course, we had the incidents with the Gallant interviews bringing up him on the 4th line. So seeing him getting a goal was great. Unfortunately, it didn't last long because 2 minutes later, Dougie Hamilton tied it up on the power play. But then in the third period, we saw the goal that Ranger fans have been waiting for all season long. Kakko strips the puck from who did he strip the puck from? I'm trying to remember who it was.
Oh, I don't remember. It was just so smooth.
Ryan Graves, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, he stripped in the neutral zone. Quick 1-2 pass with Strome, and then he stick handles around Blackwood and scores his first goal of the season. After getting the secondary assist on the Lafreniere goal, Kakko with a 2-point night. Unfortunately, Zacha tied it up in the final minutes. And then we went to, after an overtime that went back and forth, we went to what I would consider one of the most fun shootouts I've seen in years.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
It was back and forth. The fans were into it. And the Rangers being the second team to shoot probably made it more fun for Ranger fans, because every time the Devils shot or every time the Devils scored, you knew the Rangers had to score to stay in it. And Kakko, Panarin, and Strome all did that in when they were on. They had to score to keep the Rangers in it. And then in the final round was round 7, I think, after Pavel Zacha missed, Chris Kreider, who had his first shootout attempt in 8 years, converts.
Wow, what a stat!
He there's only his second shootout attempt in NHL history. The first one was against the Ottawa Senators in 2013. And this one his second, and he converts. And the big Sally with the PK Subban Sally at the end, skating past the Devils bench. Rangers win in a shootout. Unfortunately, they lose Sammy Blais due to injury. A lot of Ranger fans are blaming PK Subban, and I kind of understand, because he was there. There was some contact, but I'm going to say something that might not be very, very popular, but I don't think PK Subban did what Ranger fans think he did here. Yes, there was contact, but it wasn't a typical PK Subban slew foot like we've seen with Lucic and Reeves earlier in the season. It was very unlucky. Unfortunately, Blais is out for the season, which makes me wonder what they're going to do next. Are they going to trade for a winger now, or how are they going to solve this?
Yeah, that's a great question.
But for the third game in this week against the Montreal Canadiens, Gallant decided to go with Gaudreau on the top line. So
exactly, and it actually paid off, to a certain extent, I would say. But before we get into Game 3, I just want to make a quick comment about Subban, because while yes, it didn't look to the same level that we've seen Subban in the past, even with Reeves, I think it's important to realize that Subban is one that, while they might not always look flashy, he also does a good job at times of really making it look a certain way. If you get what I'm kind of trying to say here. So I get that, but I don't think that we should. I think the Subban situation here is a prime example of something that he's been doing throughout his entire career. And I know that you touched on Twitter a little bit, but there's any time, because I know there's so much controversy with the Potvin sucks chant. Now's the time to really adopt something that's new, knowing that we have this hatred for Subban as Ranger fans as it is, but 2, you get a guy, now you hurt Blais for the year. That's significant. It's to a higher level than even the Tom Wilson incidents, because thankfully no one got hurt, I would say. So now that you lose a guy, that's just like the Potvin situation. So if your people are trying to make a counter now for like what today's version would be, I think it is something like a Subban sucks type thing. I think that would actually resonate well with the fan base.
Subban sucks fits in the whole theme of that chant, of course. I'm not a fan of the whole Potvin sucks chant. I mean, it only makes sense if you play the Islanders. But when you play the Kraken in Seattle and I hear Ranger fans using the Potvin sucks chant, it just doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, if you want to change it to a Subban sucks chant, go for it.
But I mean, I think it's a healthy balance of old school, new school.
But the Subban Blais incident is not as blatant as the other incidents with Subban involved.
Agreed, and that's why I said it comes off that maybe there wasn't full intent like there was in the past, but I find it hard to believe that there wasn't for a guy that, when you look at his resume, it checks off the boxes, which is unfortunate for his case, but he's the reason why we're jumping to these conclusions.
Before we go into the third game of the week, if there was one player that deserved a suspension, it was Sidney Crosby for what he did to Martin Verhaeghe.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Absolutely. If you guys didn't see, he did a full body slam on this guy.
Throws him headfirst into the boards, but it's Crosby, so he gets away with it.
No, and same thing with Subban here. Same thing with we're not going to get on a tangent about discipline in the AHL. We've been here, we've done that. We'll do it another time. But regardless, thankfully the Rangers won those 2 games, and then they headed into Game 3 last night against Montreal. The time recording this, and man, this was a good one. And you know what stood out most to me by far? Kakko and Philip Hedl. Those were the two that I really think resonated well because Hedl coming back from his
Kakko
injury.
always plays well on Tuesdays. I'm telling you.
He does. Kakko Tuesdays is a real thing. I know you pull up the numbers. He has more points than any other day in the week. Kakko. And I know that you also pulled up a statistic that I believe the Rangers are now 10-4-2 in games that Kakko scores.
Yeah, and if you look at a breakdown of the goals he scored in the NHL, he has 8 goals on Tuesday, 5 on Sunday, 4 on Monday, 2 on Saturday, and 1 on Thursday and Friday. He's never scored on a Wednesday. So Tuesday is by far his most productive day of the week.
And
so
it's just hilarious how it fits the narrative.
I know. The whole Kakko Tuesday is a because of the whole Taco Tuesday pun. It's great, but it's so much more than that because he is the most productive on Tuesdays. It's amazing.
It's awesome. It's fitting. Hopefully it continues, right? But yeah, Kakko had a great game. The Rangers won this one, obviously, that being 3-2. But Kakko starting out just looked electric, just like he did in the previous game. He had a wraparound attempt that looked like a short goal that unfortunately got stuffed short. I'm not sure. It looks like the puck, he hit it and it maybe was on the side of the net. He maybe couldn't get around fully, but he had Keith Primo.
He could have had 2 goals and 2 assists.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he had Keith Primo, absolutely fooled in Primo's first start of the year for the Habs. Hayden? Oh, I'm getting the Primos confused. My mistake. But no less, that was his first game of the year. As we know, Price has been out. I'm wishing him the best in his recovery. But Kakko still gained opportunities.
And who else scored? Who else scored?
Pardon?
Who else scored? Who scored the second goal? Obviously.
Who scored the second? Oh, I know. Exactly. Yeah, we got Kakko and then we got Kreider. They're going in hand. And I love that because we're getting more production from our wingers that outside of Kreider too and Kakko. But going to Kakko's goal first, I just want to say that's the second of the year, obviously. Panarin assist. Beautiful pass by him. That was his 12th assist of the year. Strome would assist to his 7th apple. Then Christian Dvorak tied it. Unfortunately, I really don't want to blame Igor too much on it because it just kind of slipped. It looked like he was hesitant for a slight second with Dvorak right in front on what would be his left side to looking at Dvorak, and it just squeaked in between himself and the post. But then Kreider comes, and Kreider does what he always does. He scores. That's his 12th of the year, 10th apple by Mika Zibanejad. Can we just take a moment to appreciate the kind of run Kreider's on to start the season now? We've been saying it every episode, but he's not slowing down right now.
It's on pace for 61 goals. I know he's not going to get it, but no. Every time he scores, I update his 82-game pace. He's on pace for 61 goals.
It's really insane how well of a start he's had.
And after how many games have we played? 16?
Yes.
So that's roughly 20% of the season, right? So 1/5. We have 4 players on pace for 70 points this season. Adam Fox, Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, and Chris Kreider. And the last time we had 4 players hitting 70 points in the same season was 93-94.
All right, Steven, it's almost like you shouldn't have said it. But regardless, I think what's important to point out with Kreider, too, is here he has 15 points in the first 16 games of the season. He had 30 points all last season in the short year, which he played over 50 games. So to give you kind of an idea on the direction he's on to start this year, it's guns a-blazing, and we're loving every second of it. But no less, then we get on to the third period and talking about, French Canadians, as you brought up, scoring against the Montreal Canadiens. Julien Gauthier gets a really nice goal for his first goal of the year. Absolute beauty, and that made it a 3-1 game. Josh Anderson, the big-bodied forward, would then respond right after to make it a 3-2 game for the Habs in the third. But that's all she wrote. Anderson ended up gaining a scuffle right at the end with Trouba, which I know you probably found a little comical because I know your critiques usually Brendan Lemieux fighting after the whistle or like when the game's about to end. But this one had a little bit more oomph to it because there was already one fight, which came from Ryan Reeves. Finally, we got him to drop the gloves. I would have thought it would have happened in the Devils game, but no, it happens in this one against, I believe, a rookie in Pizzetta, who Reeves said in postgame really was confused as to what was transpiring with getting into a duel with him.
And the reason he didn't fight Subban in the game against the Devils because they were holding a lead with only a couple of minutes to go.
Yep.
And he didn't want to get called for a penalty and then have your team go on a penalty kill. That's actually the right decision there.
No, he's smart.
It's a smart decision. But now Pizzetta challenged him and he dropped the gloves and he won that fight fair and square. There was an incident with Gallagher at the end.
What an idiot. Imagine being down by a goal with like 30 seconds left. Oh, I'm going to go sucker punch the opposing team. That'll really do him.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that was such a selfish play more than
There
anything.
has to be some history between Gallagher and Goudreau from the Stanley Cup final, though. There has to be something.
That's
there.
a great point as well. Yeah,
There has to
I
be
wouldn't
something
surprise
there.
me. They definitely look. They both come off as types that wouldn't like each other.
But yeah, the Rangers win. Julien Gauthier getting the game-winning goal, which led to something I researched when I woke up this morning. Alexis Lafreniere and Julien Gauthier are the first pair of Quebec-born Rangers to score game-winning goals in the same season against the Canadiens since Jean Rattel and Don Marshall in 1969, 1970.
Wow. Some of the statistics you've been pulling lately have really, get not jaw drop me, but I'm like, wow, that's actually even stretching for you. I'm like, what made you think of this thing to look up? But I'm like, that's why we appreciate the random statistics, because it's fun knowledge,
Yeah, I have to say, I have to give a shout out to the NHL.com website because they revamped their stats page.
Okay.
And they added some interesting filters. And one of the filters you can look for on a game-to-game basis is players based on their origin. So you can look for states, provinces. So yeah, the NHL stat page on their main website was definitely the go-to one for this one. But I thought it was interesting that Gauthier scored the game-winning goal because we all remember Lafreniere in Montreal last month. And I remember researching French-Canadian goal scorers in Montreal for the Rangers, and that went back to like the 1980s. And I thought, you know what? Let's see when we last had two game-winning goals from two different French-Canadian players.
Yeah.
Or I should say Quebec-born, because Quebec-born and French-Canadian aren't technically the same thing.
Yeah, no, I get what you're insinuating though. But yeah, very interesting stat no less. And to really wrap up things on this game, Rangers just had one more shot than the Habs, 34-33. Power plays, neither team was able to score. The Rangers did lose in the faceoff dot, but slightly, it was a respectable duel, 51% in favor of the Habs to 49 for the Rangers.
The faceoffs haven't been the anomaly they were at the start of the season, where
there hasn't been a consistency with them, really.
No. The start of the season, every game was won by the team that lost the face-off battle. It's ridiculous. Yep. And that went on for like 10 games. But now it's evening out a little bit. I think the Rangers had a good stretch, especially against the Canadiens last night. They played really well. Of course, their three opponents were a little bit weaker than the ones before that. This is not the Edmonton Oilers or the Calgary Flames. But hopefully we can gain some momentum here, gain some confidence, especially for kids like Kakko and Lafreniere, and Gauthier getting his first goal. That can be huge moving forward.
Oh, absolutely. And look, if there's any games to help kind of build confidence for these young guns that, are struggling, it's games like this, where opportunities are going to be more apparent usually than if, say, you're playing top dogs in the league. So, that's absolutely fantastic point. And I did want to thank another super chat here in the stream. Davis Douglas, thank you so much for the $20 donation. Really, really appreciate that, my friend. Thank you so much for the support. Everyone, hype in the chat if you're watching this live for Davis. We really appreciate that. But yeah, in a nutshell, the Rangers go in. They've now won 4 straight games beyond the 3 games that we're talking about now. They won their previous game before we got into this stretch too. So 4 straight. Kakko on a goal scoring streak. We'll see how long that extends. Chris Kreider doing what Chris Kreider does. Adam Fox continuing to look like the best defenseman.
Oh, yeah. Can we talk about Adam Fox for a minute?
Please.
Oh man, he last night against the Canadiens again. He was doing stuff that I cannot even pull off on the PlayStation on easy mode, and he does it on the ice every game. There was a play in, I think it was the second period, where he gets the puck in the neutral zone, he controls it with his skate, and then the puck bounces off the boards, and then he plays it through the opponent's legs to open up space in the offensive. Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous. And he keeps doing it over and over again.
He looked so effortless last night. I feel like, it's not that
he makes it look easy, even though we know it isn't.
against the Habs, he didn't play down to them, but he sure as hell could have done a lot more too, which just shows you how good he is, because he looks stupid good all game long. And not just him, but between Kakko, between flashes that we saw, Zibanejad getting that rush after game, falling down, which I thought was funny because Trouba poked him to give him a boost, but instead he falls down. I was like, what are you doing? Thankfully, worked down the end, a nice pass to Kreider. Everyone contributed. Lafreniere had some golden opportunities last night that unfortunately he overthought too much, specifically a 2-on-1 that stood out right away, where in my mind he should have taken the shot, but instead he tried to force pass and it was broken up by the defenseman. He had another golden opportunity too on a one-timer in the right dot that he whiffed on. So he's continuing to go through this process, but it was good to see that he had some more open ice. He just needs to start taking more advantage of it, and hopefully you will as the games go on. With hopefully some more increased ice time too. But I really want to acknowledge Cheadle as well, to come off the injury after unfortunately coming from the guy that's now out for the season in Sammy Blais. Cheadle comes back and he just looked damn good all game long. There wasn't really much shifts where I felt that he was looking underwhelming. He was getting some really nice rushes. He had a beautiful play that unfortunately didn't land in a goal, but it was awfully close. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Cheadle coming back from his injury. Normally, guys look a little rough around the edges, slow start, but all game long, the Rangers just continued to emphasize the pressure. They did not give much breathing room to the Habs, and I don't think, this being a one-goal game does enough justice on the amount of positives I think we saw throughout the game for the most part.
Yeah, look, Cheadle on the third line is great. Let's be real, but I think I've seen enough of him on the second line to now confidently say that he should just stay on the third line, because that's where he's most productive. That's where he can help the Rangers win. And the more I see this team play, the more I realize that Ryan Strome is going to have a future on this team past this season.
Yeah.
They're going to have to find a way to keep him on the team. I'm pretty sure they will. They'll find a way to create the cap space for him. But imagine being Ryan Strome for a second here. You get drafted by the Islanders, your game falls off a bit, so you're traded to the Edmonton Oilers. Your play isn't really improving there, even though you play on a team with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. And then you get traded 1-for-1 to the New York Rangers, where you get to play with Panarin. And not only does your game pick up, but Panarin's production goes through the roof. Because let's not forget, Panarin hit season-high goals and assists in his first season with the Rangers, even though he only played 69 games. So it's not just Strome's production that went off when those two were started playing together. Look at this from Strome's point of view. Would you test free agency, get a big payday, and not know where you end up? Or do you just take a team-friendly deal with the Rangers for the next 4 years, play with Panarin for 4 more years, and then get your big payday in 2025?
I think as long as, Strome is given, comfortability from the Rangers that they're committed to him, because that's something that we know we haven't seen with many players since the rebuild started. I find it a little hard to believe that he would want to go elsewhere, given that he's taken a new step in his game really since he first came in the league. You can tell he's never looked this comfortable in his career.
Exactly. And the only requirement, I'd say, if I had a chat with Chris Drury and I could tell him one thing about Ryan Strome's next contract, I'd say, please, no more than 4 years. Make sure the contract for Ryan Strome ends the same offseason as Panarin's.
That's smart.
That gives you flexibility. You send a clear message to Strome that you want him and Panarin together. And then in 4 years, who knows where we are? The salary cap's going to go up by then. You have your salary, your cap penalties off the books. You're going to have maybe Trouba or Kreider off the books. In 4 years, a lot can happen. And so that's what I would do.
And, there's been a lot of speculation with, some potential trade targets for the Rangers. Think of a Tomas Hertl, for example. But when you look at a guy, let's just take, I'm focusing on him for the reason being of people thinking that Hertl could potentially be a drastic improvement at 2C over someone like Strome. while anything is surely possible, if you look at Hurdle's career at this point, one, he's been dealing with injuries, and two, he hasn't done anything point production wise significantly to suggest that he would be anything drastic over Strome. And that could be a very different payday you're looking at too. So there's obviously upsides to keeping Strome, knowing that you could potentially get him on a hometown discount, knowing that he's comfortable and is happy with the willingness from the Rangers for him to actually stay here, that they want him to. But when you're looking at the other options, Jack Eichel was the only real anomaly that we discussed. There isn't anyone to that caliber available. So I do think it's in the best interest for the Rangers right now to continue rolling with what they currently have, because at the end of the day, if Strome could be the reason why you can keep the majority of this core together over the next couple of years, as they're going to be as tight as it is money-wise, then yeah, you do it. By no means do I want them to go down a route of a Hurdle or someone else where you might have to cough up bigger dollars, which could be a detriment to losing some guys on the roster that shouldn't be lost.
Yeah, no, it's true. And if you look at the situation now, yeah, I know Thomas Hurdle is a name that's been linked to the Rangers mostly by fans who just, trying to talk it into existence. But if you look at Ryan Strome, since he and Panarin started playing together, let's see. I looked it up here. He has 117 points in 138 games among centers that rank 16th in the league. That's 34 goals, 83 assists. Why would you trade for a center hoping he could do what Ryan Strome does when you already have Ryan Strome?
Exactly. If the Rangers were in a situation right now where, it was like a guarantee that Ryan didn't want to stay here, then it's a completely different discussion, right? Then you're trying to emphasize on how to change
case
things.
I can make is if you go for a center that plays a different game.
Yeah.
If you want to go for a center that plays a solid two-way game, like someone like Philip Danault.
Yeah.
If you can get like a center that is top 10 or top 5 in Selke voting every year, that's a change to your lineup that I think is justified to replace Strome. But if you're going to let Strome go just to sign Thomas Hurdle, what's the point? What's your end game here? You're just replacing one second line center with another for more money, and assuming you're going to trade for him at the deadline, you're giving him assets for him too. What's the point? I don't see any upside in acquiring Thomas Hurdle just to replace Ryan Strome. If you want to acquire Thomas Hurdle to replace Philip Hedl,
that's a different story. Exactly.
Because then you improve your team as a whole. You replace an inferior player with Thomas Hurdle, yes. But Strome for Hurdle, I don't see the point there.
Agreed. Again, as we said before, the only real exception was getting someone that's a clear next level on your 2C and someone like Eichel, but even would be the scenario where it becomes a Banjad gets dropped down, because if Eichel's healthy, he would become your top guy,
Exactly. But the players that are no longer going to be on the market, like Couturier and Barkov, before they signed their extensions, when those names popped up in conversations, I can understand why fans want them, because
those are justified.
Those are justified because you are acquiring a top 5 Selke candidate every year. And if there's one thing our center core is lacking, it's defensive play. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. But I really don't see. I just don't see this organization moving on from Ryan Strome with the way he's been playing. Because look at how Panarin has played since Ryan Strome returned from injury.
Yeah, no, you can tell that there's definitely been a little bit more of a pep in his step, because he's had a slow start to the year overall.
And Panarin has said it himself in interviews. He likes playing with Ryan Strome because they go well together, they gel together. So why would you break that up?
Yeah, I don't think it's a good look to potentially risk having a change up in chemistry with not just your best player on your team, but one of the best players in all the world right now in Artemi Panarin. So that's another very valid point.
One comparison I'd like to make for Ryan Strome is a guy that plays for the other team in New York, center first round pick
Mm-hmm. Oh, I wonder who that could be.
that they got from the Edmonton Oilers. Matt Barzo, 113 points in 162 games. So he has 4 fewer points in 2 fewer games.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't see why, aside from the salary cap, I don't see any reason why the Rangers are moving on from Ryan Strome.
Agreed. I think we're both really on the same page here in regards to Stromer. So, we'll see how the year goes on and everything. But talking about additions, the Rangers are in a very interesting spot. I know we touched on it a little bit last episode and everything, but now that Sammy Blais out of the lineup, and again, shout out to Blais, I'm wishing him all the best in recovery. Just so unfortunate, literally comes to a new club, trying to make a name for himself here, and being in all different types of roles for us already. And believe it or not, I do think that losing Blais is obviously far more than a negative than a positive, because yes, he hasn't looked great every game, but there's elements to his game that were exactly why the Rangers were looking for a guy like him in the first place, outside of a guy like Barclay Goodrow. So losing Blais for the season absolutely sucks. Hopefully he heals up well and he's ready for the following season. But how do you think the Rangers are going to go about their lineup going forward? Do you think it's going to be more of what we see with Goodrow in the top line? Because if you're asking for my opinion first, and I know that he has to earn it to a certain extent, but I found a statistic that was awfully important, that out of the last 14 first overall draft picks, Alexis Lafreniere has the least amount of ice time to his point in his career, respectively. And I understand that, the shortened season goes in hand, a lot of different things. There are a lot of factors that go into the Alexis Lafreniere discussion that we've had, so I'm not trying to beat a dead horse there. But for a team that is in a spot right now that's just getting started on taking that next step, I don't see how you don't prioritize Lafreniere on giving him consistent ice time and really trying to give him that role potentially on the top line, even if you have him at right wing.
Yeah. I understand Lafreniere on the third line because he hasn't played well, but it's harder to justify when the players you prefer over him are Sammy Blais, Barclay Goodrow, and when Blais went out against the Canadians, or sorry, against the Devils, they moved up Dryden Hunt to the top line. I just don't get it. I don't understand how time and time again you're presented with these opportunities to move your first overall pick into your top 6 and you don't do it. I don't get it. But it's only 16 games. We'll see what happens. I'm glad he got a goal against the Devils. That probably sparks his production a little bit, I hope. But there needs to be more coming from him as well. When we look at Kakko, you can see the plays. Even when Kakko wasn't producing, he was playing well.
Mm-hmm.
Kakko was creating turnovers in the neutral zone. He was setting up teammates. He was back checking all the time. The play both on and off the puck from Kakko was there. But when Lafreniere is not scoring, he's not there. It's like he's skating in quicksand. He's not really where he needs to be. He's not impacting the game unless he scores goals. And that's a really bad situation to be in. Of course, he's only 20 years old and it'll get better, but when you play with guys like Dryden Hunt and Julien Gauthier, with all due respect, and Barclay Goodrow, you're not going to get the same opportunities as when you're playing with Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad. And I've been saying for the last week or so that my solution would be to move Chris Kreider to the third line, and the reason how I justify that is, because everyone's saying no, but he leads the team in goals, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Yes, but most of his goals come on the power play anyway. You're not affecting I think it's 75% of his goals on the power play. So you're not affecting 3/4 of his goals by moving him to the third line. I know it's not going to happen, but we'll just have to wait for Lafreniere to get a shot in the top 6.
Yeah, no, it's going to continue to be a waiting game.
Because honestly, I don't understand Barclay Goodrow being right wing on the top line. There was a play last night where Goudreau gets the puck one-on-one with Primo, and he cannot convert. And I'm convinced if that's Lafreniere or Kakko, that's a goal.
Absolutely.
But I think the guy that might have an outside chance at claiming that top line spot on the right wing is Julien Gauthier.
I think so too.
You know,
If
Julien
you're
Gauthier.
going to go with Goudreau, if you're going to go with Hunt, you'd have to imagine that Gauthier is going to get his shot at some point.
All summer we heard that we're trading away Pavel Buchnevich to give the kids more minutes.
Yep.
Sammy Blais 25, Barclay Goudreau's 28. That's not who I want those minutes to go to. No, you are building a team to win a cup in the next couple of years. I just don't get it. But Julien Gauthier is similar to Kaapo Kakko. Despite his lack of production, you know, he was out there making things happen. You know, drawing penalties. He was strong on the forecheck. A different type of player than Kakko, but he was noticeable. And that's something that Lafreniere needs to work on. Lafreniere needs to be noticeable even when he's not scoring.
Exactly. And that's what Kakko has been doing so well.
Yeah, exactly. And if Lafreniere does that, then Gallant has no other option but to play him in the top six.
Yeah, I think a big argument that's really battle between giving him more ice time is, while I'm under the belief that he absolutely should be given top line minutes every single night, because at the end of the day, you're not going to get anywhere if you don't develop your top draft picks over the past couple of years. I keep saying it, but they're supposed to be part of your core. I'm more concerned about them developing and getting the way that they need to be than I am making playoffs this year. Because playoffs don't mean shit if you don't get these guys developed, because they're supposed to be your driving forces, right? Then it's just a complete waste of really what could have been something amazing potential-wise. There's a reason why there's so much hype with him. But with saying that, I understand Gallant's thought process here with making it harder to justify putting him in those opportunities when he has done nothing with the play he's done thus far to really show it. You know, he doesn't do anything to this point that's really flashy. We're not getting the defensive upside that you get with Kakko, you know, that could justify, okay, you know, he did so well on his own end or in the neutral zone. Let's give him some more ice time. He deserved it. Like, he still has his ways to go. So it's a tough balance that we're trying to figure out right now, not just as fans, but for the Rangers. Like I said, I do believe that he still, more than anything, should be given top line, even if he has some bad games, because the only way for him naturally continue to build confidence is knowing that the team is instilling confidence in him, that they're comfortable with him going out there every night and being in crucial situations for the team. But again, I digress. I know it's something that we're going to continue to talk about all season. I understand Gallant's point of view, but I also understand, in my opinion at least, what is most sensible for the Rangers, and they're truly trying to prioritize this core group to have give them success in the years to come.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to look at, and you know, we all want Lafreniere to play more, but I think he will. We just need to be patient, but it's frustrating. Yeah, I'm frustrated too. It's frustrating to see your first overall pick, you know, being invisible on the third line. And I don't expect him to be McDavid. I just expect him to be better than Neil Yakupov. That's all.
I expect him to be Alexis Lafreniere. That's what I expect him to be. And we haven't gone that yet.
True. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Now with the Blais injury, it opens up possibilities. We'll see what goes on there. I cannot see Goudreau on the top line for more than 2 weeks, honestly.
The only way I think we could see it is if he actually shows worth there. Gallant has shown us fans at this point, at least, that he doesn't stick too long term with something if it doesn't look like it's gelling well. So I appreciate that.
We're talking about a guy who, let me quickly look this up because I think he probably never hit 20 points. We're talking about a guy who's 28. He always played bottom six.
Yeah, no, he's never gone past, I think, 23, 24 points in his career.
24 is his career high in a single season.
And let's put him on the top line.
I just don't understand how, and this is just more frustration, I guess. I understand you want to go after some guys who have won a cup. because you need that experience in the locker room. That's why guys like Brad Richards and Dan Boyle were so important. And Ruslan Fedotenko,
Love
very
Ruslan.
underrated player.
Shout out to
Very,
Fedotenko. Well,
very underrated player. I loved Ruslan
part of
Fedotenko
the 2004 Tampa Bay Lightning winning team, along with Brad Richards
and Dan Boyle and
Yeah.
Martin St. Louis.
Yes. We can go down that whole list.
Exactly.
What a team.
I know those guys are important, but it just feels like they got the two guys that they probably got the two worst options out of those two Stanley Cup winning teams. That third line in Tampa was buzzing, but it was mainly because of Yanni Gourde.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, because of Blake Coleman.
Thirdly, because of Goudreau.
And Barclay Goudreau was, I guess, the glue that held it together, but he wasn't the main guy on that third line.
No, he was an X factor for them getting over that hump of being balanced both offensively and defensively. Like their lineup was insane how well they balanced things.
Yeah,
but it doesn't justify him being in a more increased role now that he's away from Tampa.
It's like playing Dan Carcillo in your top six. Dan Carcillo has 2 Stanley Cup rings, but it doesn't make him a top 6 player.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my biggest criticism with Gallant so far. Why is Goudreau playing on your top line? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And it comes off as
Goudreau is not better offensively than Julien Gauthier.
No, Julien Gauthier is noticeable. Even if he's messing up and getting a penalty, he's still noticeable out there.
If you want to make the argument that Alexis Lafreniere is not ready for the top 6, fine. I'll agree with you there. But why not play Gauthier on the top line with Kreider and Zibanejad then? I don't understand why Goudreau's playing there. I just don't get it. Because I thought he was really good on the third line.
Yeah.
If you have a third line of Lafreniere, Goudreau, and Hedl, where you have Hedl as your center, but you have Goudreau who can take some faceoffs when he needs to, I think that's where he can be much more valuable.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. I think Goudreau is an offensive black hole, and I don't think he contributes anything to our top 6.
And I don't think that's an outlandish take at all. There's been nothing to really prove otherwise to this point, right? Yeah. But, to kind of wrap things up on Sammy Blais being out for the year and how the Rangers address things, it's going to be an ever-flowing situation. We're going to see a lot of different change-ups, I'm sure. Hopefully we do get stability sooner rather than later. It's always important because once you got stability, that more than likely means that you got things that are clicking. The top 6 for the most part is looking really good, even with Goudreau there. Taking him aside, those top 5, Kakko coming into his own offensively, we're seeing more. I don't have any real complaints. Bottom 6 is where you just have all these question marks, because you have unproven guys.
The frustrating thing is the first 2 weeks of the season, the bottom 6 was the only thing that was clicking for this team.
I know, and now it's polar opposite.
I'm glad that the top 6 is finally catching up. Panarin has been playing much better.
Yeah,
Panarin always put up the points, but now he's actually playing well.
He needed that fire under his ass by the Columbus fans, to wake him up a little bit.
Maybe that was his wake up call. But the top 6 is gelling now. Defensively, we're better. We just need to sort out that bottom 6, and we have the players for it. Dryden Hunt, Kevin Rooney, Ryan Reeves. I think that's our 4th line moving forward. I don't think there's any question there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And Reeves, he doesn't look like a pylon out there. And yes, I know that he's not going to do much production for you, but he's such a different type of quote unquote enforcer, if you will. I've never seen the Rangers have a guy like him. He's huge when it comes to being a hype man, in the locker room, on the ice. He's there. He is doing some things. And I would like to see him get in some more scruffs throughout the year. I'm sure he will, but he brings an element to this team that I think that they're actually feeding off of, maybe even more than what I initially had the expectation of. So, Reeves, while going into the season wasn't someone that would like to see him playing every day. I mean, as long as it isn't a complete falter to a lack of offense in this bottom 6, I can live with it. So we'll see how the remainder of the season goes on. But so far, so good with Ryan Reeves. I don't have much concerns with him, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, and if the Rangers win their next game, it'll be their first 5-game win streak since February 2020. So
My goodness. Fingers crossed.
let's hope for that one.
And I think, I'm not going to jinx anything, but I think now is a good time because this episode isn't as in depth as others, I would say. Are you kind of ready to answer some questions before we get into the upcoming schedule?
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's get into some questions. So again, if you guys are watching this live, listening wherever you get your podcasts, we'll be taking some questions now for the next 10 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap things up with the upcoming schedule for the Rangers and our predictions per usual. But Steven, before we end the episode, let's get it beforehand. What's the last Ranger to wear number 39? I gotta know. Are you aware?
We're going to go into that.
Let's do some research real quick.
Okay, let me look this up because we're at episode 39, huh?
Episode 39.
All right, let's get the list together. 21 players. The last player to wear number 39 was Matt Beleskey.
Yes, the key piece in the Rick Nash deal.
The key piece. Listen, that Rick Nash deal is still a steal. You know?
Oh, absolutely. It was a steal then, and it is now.
Yeah. Nicholas Jensen, who we got for Allison Edom.
Yeah.
Brendan Bell, Brody Dupont, Alexandre Giroux, 2006, Joel Bouchard, Dan Lacouture, Trent Whitfield, Drew Bannister, Brad Smith, Daniel Gano, Dan Cloutier, Vladimir Vorobiev, Steve LaRouche, Sean McCosh, Todd Marchand, Doug Waite.
That's a significant one.
Peter Laviolette.
Not so much. Player-wise, at least.
Tony Granado, Chris Jensen,
Okay.
and the first Ranger to ever wear number 39 was in 1981, 1982, Tom Youngans.
Never heard that one before. So
I've never heard of that name before. Let's see how many games he played for the Rangers. He played a total of 47, 3 goals, 5 assists for 8 points. That's it. He played for the Minnesota North Stars for 6 years.
There you go. You know that those are the New York Rangers' history of repping the number 39. So let's get into some questions, folks. If you have any comments or concerns watching this live that you'd like us to answer over the next couple minutes, by all means, ask away. Core Python, what's up, my man? He says, still want to know how we got more for Nash than we did for Mack and Miller. Hate to be a broken record. Still pisses you off. I mean, it is what it is. You know, it is a broken record at this point.
I think getting more for Rick Nash is a large part of that is what Jeff Gordon did afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for Rick Nash, if I remember correctly, we got a first-round pick. We got Ryan Lindgren, Ryan Spooner, Matt Beleskey, but that was just a cap dump, and then a 7th-round pick, I think. If you then turn around and turn Ryan Spooner into Ryan Strome, you trade up at the draft and turn that pick into Keandre Miller. You improve that trade afterwards. When it comes to the McDonough and Miller trade, we got a first-round pick, a conditional first-round pick. Unfortunately, that condition wasn't met. The condition was if Tampa wins the Cup in 2018 or 2019, the Rangers get their first-round pick. Of course, they go on to win it the 2 years after that, not the 2 years that it would impact our first-round pick. So we get a second, and we turn it into Nils Lundqvist, Carl Henriksen, and then we get Libor Hayek and Brett Howden, who scored a highlight reel goal last night for Vegas. It's amazing how these players do once I leave New York, by the way.
Oh my god! Oh yeah, I'm glad he brought up that goal. Yeah, I saw it last night. It was like, it was hilarious because it was a game where Tony D gets the goal scoring started for Carolina. Then you have Howden, yes, being Brendan Smith, and then Antti Raanta. It's like,
yeah, and then in Winnipeg you have Neil Pionk, who is shutting down Connor McDavid. Unbelievable.
You know, it's almost like the Rangers, you know, just imagine what they could be like if they had all these puck-moving defensemen on the right side.
Amazing.
Look, everything happens for a reason. We should just be, we're just thankful because out of all these big name, you know, point producers, we have the best one. we have the best overall defenseman, and that's important because Tony, his role, putting all aside, the stuff that happened outside of, just being a player. Pionk, same thing. There's no guarantee that they would be blossoming the way that they are if they were still with the Rangers, especially because limited opportunities, especially a guy like Pionk, he'd
No,
probably be on your third pair,
but that's just highlighting my concerns,
What do you mean?
That's just highlighting my concerns. You're saying exactly what my concern is. There's no guarantee that they would flourish this way if they were still on the Rangers.
Oh, well, of course, but you have to understand the circumstance. They wouldn't be the top line defense. Like Tony is
right.
the top line defenseman,
Yeah.
power play number one. Then you have Pionk. Same thing with Winnipeg. He's their go-to guy, puck mover on that point more than anyone else. So that's why those opportunities go directly in hand.
But like you said, we have Adam Fox, and Adam Fox plays together with one of the parts of the Rick Nash trade in Ryan Lindgren. I think Jeff Gordon did a great job. He may have missed on the McDonough trade, but trading who was it who traded for a fourth round pick? Nick Holden for a fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. Then he traded Joey Keane for Julien Gauthier. He traded Brady Shea for a first that we used for Braden Schneider. He made some really good trades. He just has the one or two misses that fans keep complaining about. But I think overall Jeff Gordon is easily in that positive when it comes to his trades.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, he's far more in the positive than he is in the net negative, if you will.
And you cannot win them all, but let's also not forget that JT Miller was a fourth liner in Tampa before they traded him to Vancouver.
Yeah, no, again, that's another good point as well. So yeah, Gordon.
Also, let's not forget that Nemesnikov was almost a point per game player in Detroit after we traded him away for a fourth.
Yep.
So, I mean, the talent was there. There were opportunities to win that trade, but we just didn't.
Yeah.
It happens. You cannot win them all. You win trades, you lose trades. At least it's not as bad as a Zubov trade.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thankfully, I wasn't around when that transpired.
I know older people talk about Rick Middleton, the Rick Middleton trade being the worst in franchise history. I wasn't alive for that one, so for me, it's a Zubov trade. But if you have to go back 30 and 50 years to talk about your worst trades in franchise history, I think you're all right.
Yeah,
I think it's okay.
No, I think you're right too. But here,
the Edmonton Oilers have 5 trades in the last 10 years that are worse that are worse than the Zubov trade, in my opinion. So.
Oh yeah, no, we don't need to go down the Peter Chiarelli.
The Peter Chiarelli black hole. Yeah.
Yeah. But here, let's get on a couple questions before we wrap things up with the schedule coming up. Gaines hired of McKegg. My question would play out: should we bring up Morgan Barron or Lauri Pajuniemi to the lineup? Lauri Pajuniemi, no, because he doesn't make any sense for the role he would be on for the Rangers, which is limited on the fourth line. Barron, yes, and I do think that we're going to see Barron again, hopefully soon, within the next month. He's the next man up, in my opinion. And I know that you can agree with that one.
Yeah, if you're looking for a third line player, you call up Barron. If you're looking for a fourth line player, you call up either Gettinger or Richards. If the Rangers are really thin on right wing, then Pajuniemi could make an appearance, but I don't see that happening until at least the end of the season. Pajuniemi has only just arrived in North America. He's on a 4-game point streak, so he's getting into his groove now. But give it a couple more months.
Yeah, no, give him a couple moments indeed, and we're going to see what comes of it. I'm excited for when Pajuniemi does eventually, hit the NHL level, but that's something that I don't, think is a rush or it's going to be happening necessarily anytime soon.
I always compared Pajuniemi's trajectory to Jesper Fast.
I think he has far more offensive upside though.
No, but the trajectory, his path to the NHL is similar.
Oh, okay. Fair.
A couple of years in Europe, then a full season in the AHL, a second season in the AHL, and then during that second season, you transition to the NHL. That's what I see for Pajuniemi. That's the exact same way it happened with Jesper Fast.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Shout out Fast. He's having a great start to the year for Carolina as well. He's actually
Yeah.
nailing a couple goals. But another question here from Joe says, do we think Kessel is a good option? Ooh, good question. I think we touched on Kessel briefly before. What's your initial take on him?
Yeah. Can we talk about Kessel being third all time in the Ironman streak, by the way? 915 consecutive NHL.
Literally the most out of shape mother effer, and he defies all that as a hockey player, and he
I
he
know.
does it his way,
Amazing.
and I love him for it though.
Yeah.
He just makes it work.
Look, I think Kessel fills a hole for the Rangers. Yes. How much will it cost to acquire him, though? The Rangers do have the cap space. He's on an expiring contract, so it doesn't hurt them in the future with the salary cap. The question is, are the Rangers in a position to make a move like that? Do you want to give up assets for a short-term gain? What's your goal here? If your goal is to make the playoffs, is it worth giving up assets to just to make the playoffs? I mean, if you're a playoff team and you want to get better going into the playoffs, sure, I get it. If you are a top 3 team in your division at the end of this at the deadline, then by all means go for it. But I think we're going to see general managers wait until mid-December before we see any big moves happening.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's especially when it comes to the trade deadline. I don't expect anything of significance before the new year. Really,
Right.
it's just it very rarely happens.
And this I think this is going to be the first time in many years that we have both an All-Star game and the Olympics. So we're going to have an All-Star break and the Olympic break. So everything.
I'm sorry, repeat that. I don't know why I didn't hear it fully.
Normally, if in previous years where NHL players were playing in the Olympics, there was no All-Star game.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have an All-Star game, so we have an All-Star break at the end of January, and then we have the Olympic break in February. So
that's a good point.
That's going to affect a lot as well. Players we all hope it's not going to happen, but players are going to get injured over there. Do you want to trade for a player in January who then goes off for 3 weeks to play for his country and comes back with an injury?
Trade for a player that is either 1, not going to be part of the Olympics, or 2, try to sway them out of going. That's that's something to throw out there.
Yeah. Now, 1, so a player that's not good enough to play in the Olympics, is that a player that you really want to pursue giving up assets for in a trade?
Depends what team we're talking about. There's a big difference between France and Canada.
The Canadian, yeah, of course. No, but even the Canadians that aren't making the Olympic team, there are some good players in there. But it's going to affect the decisions for general managers. It's a weird season.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, so we'll see what happens. I think we're going to see some trades, like I said, mid-December at the earliest. And a lot will depend on how the young guys do on the Rangers. If Julien Gauthier heats up and he pots 10 goals in the next 6 weeks, I don't think they're going to make a trade.
That's fair. I don't think the Rangers should make a trade unless they're, in a spot come that time of the season leading up to the trade deadline where it's like, okay, they're really rolling. Like if they add another piece, that'll just if it's really justified, then okay. But it's nothing that I feel is a need. We're not going back to the Sather days where you just needed to make a deadline acquisition for the sake of making one. It almost felt mandatory if you didn't.
What was his name? Like was it Brian McCabe or something? And John Scott and those kind of deadline acquisitions.
John Scott, yeah.
Didn't make sense.
No.
Anyway, next question.
That's really it for the questions. That really wraps them up. That I felt we're going to take for today's episode, but because I really want to get onto the upcoming schedule before we get out of here, because I'm
going to ask you to write it down because I'll be flying to New York, so I won't have.
Okay. All right. Next couple games. I'm assuming that we will not do an episode again until, what do you think is best for you, Tuesday or Thursday, if you had a guess right now?
Well, Thursday is Thanksgiving.
Oh, then Tuesday. Yeah. See, I'm all over the place. I'm not going to know it's Thanksgiving until it's actually Thanksgiving. And then my family will remind me. I'm like, oh, okay.
So Tuesday. Yeah, we'll have to see what Tuesday. Yeah.
We'll shoot for Tuesday. If it doesn't happen, it's okay, because I know that you're gonna be busy. But we'll figure it out as we go. But if we do go Tuesday, we still have 3 games. 2 games, pardon me. Only 2 games. That would be for the Rangers, because the Saturday game on the 20th is postponed against the Ottawa Senators because they have a COVID outbreak. Toronto Maple Leafs would be the first game tomorrow night, Thursday night. That's a huge one. Maple Leafs have had a good start to the season. Really, really clicking well. So that's going to be a huge challenge for the Rangers in Toronto. And then the second game would be against the Buffalo Sabres, which I think, honestly, the Rangers not playing in Ottawa is going to benefit them, because it would have been a back-to-back, both away and then home. So now they just have that home game against Buffalo on the 21st, and those are your 2 matchups.
Yeah, but the Rangers are historically bad when it comes to event games. And it's Hockey Fights Cancer Night.
I know, Steven. That's the game you're going to.
I know. I'm going to go 2-0.
I'm going to go with 1-0-1.
Okay. Number of goals. You're up first this time.
8.
For 2 games? I'll take 7 then. I'll take the under.
That's fine. Feeling
8 goals in 2 games?
Feeling 8.
Sounds like an easy tiebreak win for me.
It probably will be, but I don't know. Something about taking advantage of Toronto's defense and Buffalo. Who the hell knows what's going to happen?
And if they score 8 or more goals in 2 games, I'm going to be happy either way. So
let's keep in mind how the Rangers usually play in Toronto too. Usually high scoring on both sides. So
don't even remind me of that 8-5 loss a couple of years ago.
Oh, I'm not going to remind you of that. I'm just saying in general.
No,
but I'll remind you of what was it last year, the OT winner they had against Toronto. Not talking about the game this year. What was it last year? We
didn't play Toronto last year because we had the weird.
Oh, pardon me. Yeah, that's the season before that. There's a Toronto game that's sticking in my head right now.
5-4 overtime win. D'Angelo.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly the game I'm thinking about.
Man, Brett Howden scored that game. And just like that, we've come full circle.
Let me put it this way: if we can get Brett Howden to score against Toronto, I'm liking our chances in hindsight, looking now on the 18th. So we'll see what happens. But I'm gonna go 1-0-1. You're going 2-0. I hope it's 2-0. I hope I lose this. Let me put that.
Buchnevich missed a penalty shot in that game too.
Oh my God, he did. Oh, flashback. I'm getting the PTSD. But I think that's all she wrote. Steven, any final comments before we get out of here? Again, if you would like to let people know again that are listening to the podcast about what your upcoming trip is looking like, by all means, feel free to do so.
Yeah, so I'm flying tomorrow, which is Thursday. First night's probably going to be a quiet one. I'm going to go to a local bar to watch the Rangers play the Leafs. Friday, driving up to Greenwich in Connecticut. Saturday, going to Hartford to the Wolfpack game. Then Sunday, I'll be at the Rangers game at Madison Square Garden. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I haven't really made any plans. I'm meeting some people for lunch in the city, but nothing too serious. And then Thanksgiving, my first Thanksgiving in New York. So looking forward to that one.
Awesome.
Then, of course, the Red Hot hockey game at Madison Square Garden the following Saturday. Cornell against Boston University. And then that last week, don't really have any plans yet, but I'm pretty sure my agenda will fill up soon.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're going to be a busy man. Yeah. I'd expect over this 2 weeks. But again, I thank you all so much to everybody that chimed into this episode 39 of Rangers Review. Hope you guys did enjoy wherever you get your podcast, whether it's on YouTube during the live stream or on Spotify or wherever. We really appreciate the support. We'll hopefully be back a week or so or now. Maybe longer. We'll see what the future holds on the upcoming schedule for Steven, especially. But
and if you see me at the game at Madison Square Garden, feel free to have a chat. It's always fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely point out Steven. He'll be pretty noticeable with whatever obscure jersey he has on, that he'll be the only one wearing in the entire stadium. So,
probably, yes. Yeah. That's I guess that's my thing now.
It is your thing. But that'll do it, folks. Thank you so much for watching, listening. We really appreciate you, and excited to get back, hopefully after a couple more wins for the Rangers. So, Steven, let's go Rangers.